Young and the Restless, spoilers, Full Fridays, update, recap, May 22. Welcome back to our channel, fellow Y&R addicts. Today is a beautifully chaotic day in the soap world, and we have so much to unpack. Grab your coffee, your tea, or maybe something a little stronger depending on what time you're watching this, because we need to talk about the absolute madness happening in Genoa City right now. Let's dive right in. I am literally shaking with a mix of pure joy and absolute dread after watching these latest episodes. I mean, I cannot believe they actually let Nikki Newman have a backbone for 5 seconds, only to immediately threaten to throw her right back into the fire. Are we really doing this again? Because I am so exhausted, but also kind of living for it. Let's talk about Nikki first, because my girl is going through it and my emotions are all over the place. You guys, when Victor actually demanded that Nikki stand there and applaud his completely unhinged plan to kidnap Jack Abbott and use his safety to blackmail the Abbott family, I screamed at my screen. Like, who does Victor think he is right now? A James Bond villain? And when Nikki actually walked away, I cheered. I literally threw my hands in the air and yelled at my television. We have been waiting years for Nikki to stop blindly following Victor's dictatorial nonsense. But of course, the writers can't just let us have a clean win. No, they have to rip our hearts out and stomp on them. So, because of the absolute tragedy happening with Nikki is getting sucked right back into Victor's toxic orbit, and I am terrified of what happens next. Let's just pause and talk about Nick for a second, because this is exactly why Nikki is so vulnerable. The man is lying in a hospital with potential permanent brain damage after crashing his car into a cliff because he was high on fentanyl and cocaine that Sienna and Matt Clark supplied. Nikki is in absolute agony. We all saw her screaming in the hospital corridors, completely shattered. It was gut-wrenching to watch. And Victor, being Victor, is using this family tragedy to pull the strings. Because when the family is in crisis, Victor becomes the undisputed king again. He thrives on this chaos. But here is the thing that is giving me a tiny shred of hope, and why I am typing this up furiously at midnight. Nikki hasn't just run back into Victor's arms. She is actually resisting, even with Nick fighting for his life, and the entire Newman empire shaking. She is looking at Victor and realizing that his crimes and his God complex are out of control. I swear, if she caves and just goes back to being his obedient wife after this, I am going to throw my remote at the TV. Am I the only one who feels this way? I know some people love the Victor and Nikki against the world trope, and I get the nostalgia, but personally, I need her to stand her ground. She needs to show him that kidnapping people is not a normal Tuesday activity. Okay, wait. I'm getting ahead of myself and my blood pressure is spiking. Let's pivot to the other side of this disastrous coin, because if Victor is acting like a comic book villain, Jack Abbott is acting like a complete and utter fool. I'm sorry, but Jack has completely lost the plot. I have been watching this show since the early days, and this might be the dumbest strategic mistake Jack has ever made in his entire life. And that is saying a lot for Jack Abbott. So Diane finally walked out on him. And honestly, can we blame her? She literally caught Jack in bed with Patty Williams on a boat, and then, as if that wasn't enough trauma for one marriage, she catches him in a compromising situation with Nikki. Diane is paranoid, She is furious, and she is entirely justified in packing her bags and considering a divorce. Jack's marriage is crumbling into dust right before his eyes, and instead of taking a step back, going to therapy, and acting like a rational adult, what does he do? He decides to play mind games with Patty Williams. I mean, are you kidding me right now? Jack actually thinks he can approach Patty, manipulate her, and get her to confess that Victor put her up to the whole kidnapping and seduction plot. Jack, honey, look at me through the screen. You cannot outsmart crazy. Patty is completely unhinged. Have we all forgotten who we are dealing with here? Remember when Patty poisoned Summer Newman years ago? Remember how she literally operates on a completely different plane of reality? Yeah. It didn't work to reason with her then either. Jack thinks he is this suave master manipulator who can just charm the truth out of her, but he is walking into a buzzsaw. And let's not forget the most important detail here. Patty is currently acting as a tour guide for Matt Clark. You know, the psychopath who is faking amnesia and wreaking havoc on the city, and let that sink in. Jack is trying to play 4D chess with a woman who is currently bonding with the most dangerous villain in Genoa City because they both feel misunderstood. Patty and Matt Clark are a ticking time bomb. If Jack pushes Patty too hard, she isn't going to confess to Victor's crimes. She is going to snap, and Jack is going to end up locked in a basement or worse. I am dreading this storyline because Jack is being so arrogant, but at the same time, I am kind of here for the absolute mess it's going to create. Contradictory? Yes. Do I care? No, because this is premium soap opera drama, and I am eating it up. But honestly, all of this darkness with the Newmans and the Abbotts is giving me a migraine. So let's take a breath and talk about something that is supposed to be a little lighter, even though it's taking a very weird turn. Holden and Claire. Can we talk about this dynamic for a second? Because I am so confused by the vibe here, and I need to know if I'm the only one seeing this. So Holden has just found out he is Malcolm Winter's biological son, which is a massive shock to his system. Devon and Nate are completely rejecting him. Lily is overwhelmed with her own drama, and Holden is leaning hard on Claire Newman for emotional support. That part is sweet. Claire knows a thing or two about messed up, traumatic family dynamics, so she's a genuinely good sounding board for him. But now Holden is heading to New York to support Malcolm through his aplastic anemia and stem cell treatments. And he invites Claire to tag along. I'm sorry, but since when is a bone marrow transplant trip the setting for a romantic getaway? Hey girl, want to come to New York with me? We can grab a slice of pizza, take a romantic carriage ride in Central Park, and then go sit in a sterile hospital room while my newly discovered dad gets pumped full of drugs to save his life. Like, what is this writing? It's so bizarre. It's kind of cute that they want to be together, but the context is just so morbid. But the spoilers are telling us that this trip is going to take an unexpected turn, and they are both in for a massive surprise. What is the surprise going to be? Are they going to run into someone from Claire's past? Or wait, hear me out. Is Kane Ashby going to show up in New York since he's the bone marrow match and cause a massive scene? Because we know Kane is blackmailing Lily for Chancellor Winters in exchange for his marrow. Imagine Holden and Claire walking into the hospital expecting a peaceful, supportive medical procedure, and instead walking into a full-blown corporate blackmail hostage situation in the oncology ward. I would actually pay money to see Claire's face if that happens. Actually, wait, no. Maybe the surprise is something entirely different. Maybe Holden finds out something else about his paternity, or maybe Claire gets pulled into some Newman drama while she's out of town. Whatever it is, I am both dreading it and counting down the minutes until it airs. Let's circle back to the Jack and Victor dynamic before I wrap this up, because I am still not over it and I need to get this out of my system. The fact that Victor's crimes have thrown Jack so far off his game that he is making these rookie mistakes just proves that Victor always wins the psychological war. Jack is reacting entirely out of emotion. He is desperate to clear his name with Diane, desperate to prove that Victor set him up with Patty. But by engaging with Patty, Jack is just proving Victor's point that Jack is a reckless mess. I know some people are loving this vulnerable, frantic Jack, but personally, I miss the Jack who could actually go toe-to-toe with Victor without looking like a desperate amateur. Jack used to have strategy. Now he just has panic and bad decisions. And back to Nikki. Please, writers, I am begging you on my hands and knees, let Nikki keep her independence. Let her tell Victor that just because Nick is in a coma, it doesn't mean Victor gets to act like a mafia boss and kidnap people. Nikki has been the heart of the Newman family for decades. She knows Victor's playbook better than anyone on the planet. If she can stand her ground now, while her son is literally fighting for his life, it will be the most powerful character growth she has had in 20 years. We need to see her draw a line in the sand and tell Victor that his protection is actually destroying their family. I am going to be glued to my screen next week, probably screaming into a pillow. What do you guys think? Is Jack going to get himself killed by Patty? Is Nikki going to cave and go back to Victor? And seriously, what on earth is a surprise waiting for Holden and Claire in New York? Let me know, because I need to vent with people who actually understand this beautiful, frustrating madness